for AL, as their setup was lackluster compared to what we're used to, first of all, and then second of all, by the time they did actually start, placing down some of those deep wards and getting some of that setup required, it got to a point where Monki just didn't care at that point. So I think that Rek'Sai allows you to maybe have that early information gathering with the addition of Tremor Sense.
Could be a solid argument for at least giving it over to Tarzan, and for them picking it in the 4th portion of their draft and still maintaining R5 up in the air. I think it's a nice way to at least open the conversation of, Flandre, are you willing to let Tarzan have this Rek'Sai and then pick something different once we see the entire composition from WE fully fleshed out? We still continue with the Rek'Sai. We'll now find out whether Nico was intended or if there was a different champion that WE had in the cards for themselves.
They're going to stall it out. So Nico was the lock-in, was not a mistake. So yeah, I'm going to reiterate it. Not a huge fan of this 2v2 and don't think that it gives Monki the freedom of having a support in his back pocket that can really allow him to have those aggressive tendencies that we know him for early on in this game, as I am actually a pretty big advocate for the Ahri. I think this is a good matchup, and also you don't get the point and click anti-stun, but the charm services a similar function, so it can be a substitute for not having the guaranteed lockdown. This is still a good mid-jungle pairing in my opinion, but that's really the only hard CC, as Trundle going to be the final lock-in here for AL. So and it's Trundle. I think it's Rek'Sai top.
Okay. I was curious if you know what? I'm going to wait until the draft finishes because they have until the 20-second mark to finish out the swap. And I'll save and reserve my thoughts. But speaking on the rest of the composition for WE that we know is fully locked in, a lot of playmaking with this Nico, a lot of playmaking with this Ahri. Naafiri can benefit on top of that. Q playing the front line duty this time around, but at least thankfully for AL, they have this Cassiopeia that will be able to shred Sion in the later stages of the game. Corki technically can too, but needs a little bit more time to kind of rack that up. And with the draft being pulled down, it is confirmed. It is Flandre's Rek'Sai. It is Tarzan using the Trundle. I don't think it's necessarily the best matchup into Naafiri, but for the team utility, subjugate onto a Sion will give you a frontline advantage when you go in for the 5v5. And Trundle at least is stable enough where Naafiri can't kill you in those skirmishes early on anyway until she commits onto you. And if at that point, if she hasn't had you chunked up enough, you just beat her brains in with Chomp and your club.
I think another thing to look at is just generally the scaling for both of these teams is more or less even with each other. So we'll have to see how the late games pan out for sure.
WE chants are starting to grow louder here, Quax. They're starting to believe.
They are indeed. So, looking at the comps, though, because we did fire away very quickly into the second draft, I'll call it, I do think that both of these teams have very similar comp archetypes where the junglers want to get off to an early start, be the carries for their team, and then they kind of pass the baton over to specifically their AD carries who are already at each other's throats.
About just using the power of this lethal tempo, Ezreal stacking up his max attack speed off of not only the Keystone, but also Ezreal's passive as well. That can always be deceptive into a level 1 bot lane all-in, and Erha at his side, maintaining the push pressure. Both junglers pathing to the bot side of the map, so we'll see how much this health chunk advantage can be reaped in terms of rewards for either jungler.
And if you do have a major priority advantage as WE and as Monki, you could maybe look to roam Erha up toward that part of the map and try to go for an invade. So Monki has a tendency to look for plays like that, so maybe he decides to go for that pattern, though he is spotted on a ward, so an attempt at an invade would be discovered by AL if it did in fact happen. And I'm really interested to see how Karis actually shakes out in this game. I think we talk about Naafiri in the context of what lockdown do you have to get those resets? Do you have CC to unleash with that ultimate? And I think for a comp like this, it's kind of difficult for Team WE. There isn't a lot of single target lockdown guaranteed for Monki to play off of, except for, I feel that Charm is really the only single target CC that you have from Karis. So how he links up with the Naafiri is going to be very pivotal, especially in the early to mid game.
I like the fact that Cube was able to get a mini proxy going, but then Flandre had a nice response in denying the early reset for a cheater base. So that forces Cube's hand to TP back to the top side and being denied what could have been a nice early tempo reset there. He will at least interrupt Flandre's push in for now. Both junglers returning to the top side of the map where Tarzan got the first crab. He's going to try to beat Monki to the punch and make sure that he doesn't get a crab of his own, with Shanks still on the wave, having TP back first, and that should give enough priority to deny both of these crabs from Monki's Naafiri.
Karis had to get back to the lane with that teleport, like you said, so it just basically means he's not able to assist Monki for jockeying of control of that topside river. So Tarzan already off to a relatively sizable camp lead. Also means that Monki gets his back slightly delayed. He's actually going to stay on the map, maybe looking to invade, but he has to be very careful about doing this. If Tarzan discovers him, this Trundle has an item advantage, so he will beat you over the head with a club for sure, and he's just going to leap right over to the wall.
Monki thought that Tarzan was going to go for his Raptors. Monki tried to flip the game and look for a very greedy invade, and Flandre even tags on in, getting revenge for the way Monki treated him in game one.
Flash seemed a little excessive, but still a good... I hesitate to even call it a punish because Monki quite literally spun right into that one, as Shanks going to be chunked out here, but should still be able to survive. Just needs to get this wave in, but you can see how aggressively Erha and Karis are posturing up to prevent that from happening.
Oh, charm flash from Karis is just a little delayed. Shanks not even needing to use the flash for the charm, just having to use it to get away from the last tick of damage. Both mid laners now down both of their summoner spells.
Flandre picking up that kill from earlier. I am wondering how this is actually going to impact the lane, because we alluded a little bit to how this matchup is generally supposed to go. You as Rek'Sai have better sustain. With that empowered E, the full fury, you're able to get that true damage off and start chunking out this sound, just like whittling him down little by little. And so with an item advantage, with a gold advantage, I'm wondering if that is going to be that much rougher on the overall game state. Is now Monki maybe looking to even the odds, but there's the Tremor Sense spotting him out.
Yep, you mentioned it. It's super hard for Flandre. Hang on.
Good dodge.
Unstoppable Onslaught is kind of hard to dodge. He uses the Void Rush to at least reset the fight, but even with Tremor Sense, you cannot avoid Unstoppable Onslaught, especially when you are down a flash. At least for AL, they're going to get the first dragon of the game.
They spot Tarzan on that bot side and immediately look for a cross map. It's just like game number one, where both of these teams are just feeling the push and the pull of the early game, and it's led by these junglers looking for these unique angles for both of their teams. The captains of the early game ship, if you will, and both of them are steering quite accurately thus far.
Once again, we're getting similar looks from game one, where Monki playing for the gank, AL playing for the objective play. Karis is going to show his face in the river. Tarzan forced to just smite away the crab and deny it. Does proc level 6 here. Subjugate will now be available while Monki is still hunting for a couple more camps to hit that level 6 power spike of his own. Erha and about, currently pushing Kael and Hope away from the river, using the threat of Karis looming from Fog of War. He goes in for the Spirit Rush, now targeting Kael on the Nami. The Summoner Heal was trying to dodge the charm, but cannot sidestep it in time and accepts his fate. Will not burn the flash. Karis is on the board.
Karis is on the board, like you said. Kill going over to him. He will sacrifice about a wave under the turret here, and Shanks should be able to pick up this plate. He does. So, still though, good for the Ahri. Good roam attempt there. I am really, however, looking at Monki to get that level 6. We saw him get that kill in top lane to give him a slightly better gold state, but he is still behind compared to Tarzan, who is just so much CS up over him as this Trundle. And so he's got to start looking for those ganks, right? This is just the Monki style. This is the aggression that we want to see from him, and this is a champion that requires you to keep fanning that flame in order to stay alive.
You gotta feed that hungry fire, and for Monki, he might try and look bot lane, knowing that Kael and Hope could be prone to overextending here, but they're going to be very respectful of any moves, as they did not see Monki traversing over bottom side of the map here. We'll see how long Monki is willing to wait. Hope has suspicions that
he's
something
got flash and
could
barrier
happen.
too. He should be able to get out of this if he even does look for an ultimate. And all of the time that Monki is sacrificing on this bot lane to try and make this gank work, AL are just on the top side. They're going to be onto the grub. So just like game number 1, we're seeing AL's focus on the neutrals, whereas WE are just focused on trying to get these ganks to pan out. And unlike, I feel, game number 1, this early aggression really isn't coming to fruition. So it just kind of means AL are having a massive tempo advantage and are accelerating the pace of the game in their favor.
And I like this from Tarzan. He doesn't take all 3 grubs. He only takes 2. So it doesn't announce to the rest of the map that he is already on the way back on over here. And now Monki looking for at least something with his time on the bot side of the map is going to find Tarzan invading back into his own jungle. Karis forced to use the Spirit Rush. At least for Monki, he was able to secure the Gromp.
Oh, Erha!
Blossom onto 2, punishes the fact that Shanks still doesn't have flash on the Cassiopeia, and Tarzan thought that it was safe to farm his own jungle, but he did not realize that WE were willing to stick around.
And good chain CC there from Team WE. They lock down and kill Shanks before he can use the Petrifying Gaze. There's no disengage possible for AL. The reset comes through from Monki. WE get everything they wanted on that aggressive play. And the ganks finally start to, well, the ganks and the invades, rather, start to pan out here. There is still a grub available on that top side. Like you said, Flandre only took 2. But now that might give an opportunity over for WE to shift over on the other side of the map and pick up this last one. Would give Cube just a little bit more strength on the side lane as this Scion.
The kind of moves that Monki is calling for with this WE roster is very reminiscent of the tales you'll hear from teams talking about scrim demons in their league, where they just go for the most outrageous stuff. They'll go for plays that just on paper seem very, very inefficient. But if it works, you can say it's inefficient or whatnot, but they're the ones that come out the better for it. And until they work out, anyone's legend did have the advantage. Tarzan was farming up a storm. He essentially got Monki to waste a lot of time on that bot lane gank. Didn't find anything. Hope paid a lot of respect and was very patient with allowing the wave to come on in. But then it's the invade. Once they think they push Karis out off of the Spirit Rush, they're like, all right, no way they're going to extend that play.
They spot Erha for a millisecond before he flashes over. Charm connects. And that's all the CC they need. Monki picks up the kill, picks up the second one, and WE get something for themselves to continue propelling forward this game. Back to live, AL are on the dragon, and it looks like they're going to get it.
No way. Okay. Well, Monki forced a flash, tried to go for the flip. It definitely would have been hella hype. Karis going to make Flandre's return to top lane a little painful with the Charm and the Orb of Deception combo. Cube will just push this wave on in, might be able to take a plate. At the very least, Crystalline Overgrowth.
Can we please take this last scrub, Monki? Okay, thank you. I appreciate it, because I feel like Cube is going to have more opportunities like that. Speaking of opportunities, Tarzan, it's time to get active on the map. He doesn't have Trinity Force yet, but he knows how proficient Monki has been with his ganks, with his impact, and Flandre is going to be in a world of trouble. Hound's Pursuit after a flashing Rek'Sai means the very bitter end. Cube taking up the tower beautifully, and anyone's legend top laner falls. And Monki picking up his third of the game. Should be a bunch of plates given over to the Scion as well. As we see the Nami joining up with Tarzan here. I'm wondering what their plan actually is by getting Kael toward the top side, because we just saw a reset come through from the Cassiopeia. So I don't think they're going to be looking for invades or anything of that nature. It's just some basic defense, some warding. But it also feels like WE are starting to get a handle on getting this Naafiri ahead and just generally playing to the game plan we know they can play.
WE have another 3,000 gold advantage for the second time in this series. That's just bonkers to me. This team was 1-13 in series score in the regular season. And Gavin, when was the last time that WE had taken a game off of anyone's legend in a best of 5?
It has been a very long time. In a best of 5, they've only ever done it once, Mark. So it's been a while. It's been further back than last year. I forget the exact date, but it has definitely been some time. And for them to not only take a game off of AL, which is their second ever that they've managed to do in a best of 5, but also them winning that game gets them up to 7 total wins in the playoffs, more than they got in all of regular season. They got 6 total wins in regular season spring split. So they have officially eclipsed themselves. All of the 2 months that they spent was one-upped in just 2 series. 2 series in 1 game.
Yeah. Monki constantly hovering the top side of the map. The fact that we are seeing a lot more jungle proximity to Cube's lane from WE in recent memory goes to show how much faith, how much Cube has leveled up as a reliable part of the map for WE to feel confident about, and leaving about an Erha to their own devices. We're even seeing Karis shift on over to supplant even more pressure there. And Monki is being given solo gold for first brick. Are you kidding me?
And Cube, this is why we love you, man. Yeah, W top laner for that, as now Tremor Sense doesn't spot you if you're standing still. Are they actually going to be able to get something onto Flandre here? Oh, he waited for the Rek'Sai.
For his moment. Unstoppable Onslaught doesn't find the knockup though, and about might have overextended his welcome. Forced to flash over the wall. TP comes in, and that stops the play dead in its tracks at the cost of a TP from Shanks.
All right, it looked pretty cool, but the execution maybe leaving a little bit to be desired there. Flash off of the Ezreal, still has the arcane shift, so there is safety. As About has to cancel his back, almost gets found there by Hope, but should be safe. This could have impact in about a minute, though, Mark, as no flash onto About leaves him a prime target ahead of this dragon fight, and there is still a good amount of lockdown on the side of AL. I'm really looking at Flandre to get a key knockup. If he tags About, then I think the rest of AL should be able to respond off of that. Yeah. But it's just really keeping our eye on the Rek'Sai in these team fights, as you are objectively the tankiest member on your team. So how do you want to operate in the 5v5s is a big question. Do you want to look for flanks onto the Ezreal, or do you want to be the front line for your team to front to back?
Might be a fight for this Rift Herald first, though, ahead of the Dragon spawn in 30 seconds. Tarzan immediately subjugates Cube, gets super tanky. Monki secures the Rift Herald, but the Tarzan open. Erha found a beautiful flank with the Pop Blossom! And anyone's legend backline completely eviscerated and caught by surprise! How is this possible? WE are constantly finding ways to catch AL by surprise. Flandre interrupted with the unstoppable onslaught and the decimating smash, and even without a flash, About is still racking up the kills. Triple kill for the Ezreal, and WE will have enough pressure to force Tarzan away from this tier 1 turret.
He doesn't have flash, but he is playing hella flashy in that fight. WE win out, get the mid-tier 1 for their efforts, and everyone is respawning with a second Hextech map in this series. It means that off the redeploy, WE are going to get to this bot side and try and deny this Dragon Soul point from AL.
I didn't even see Erha in position over that wall until it was too late.
Neither. Yeah. We were basically all of AL right there. We weren't paying attention to the Nico. They weren't paying attention to the Nico. It really is just, you get to put yourselves in their shoes. Yeah, thank you, observers. So they see him with the Tremor Sense. but they don't care, I guess. And he gets a nasty flank here, and I'll take everything I said about Nico engages not being potent enough back for just this one play. That got the fight started for WE. It looked a little dicey afterward, but about landing crucial hits here, scores himself a triple kill. Dragon was picked up as we go back to live, and now Herald is barreling down on the tier 2 of AL.
Oh, the pillar doesn't interrupt the crash. It still goes
He mistimed
through.
it. You need to wait till it charges.
Crazy stuff that we are seeing in this LPL playoffs, and it just gets even more insane. Tarzan with the pillar will try and clip some of these WE members, but only really gets a chance to separate a clone from the pack, and that's not the ideal target. In the aftermath of that Rift Herald fight for WE, they push down the tier 1 in the mid lane. They have prio over the dragon. They deny that Drake stacking, and I think that was such a crucial fight. And once again, Quax, I want to go back to the conversation that teams need to stop underestimating WE when it comes to hands checks, because first of all, that is what got BLG sent to the lower bracket. And anyone's legend had a powerful Drake stacking win condition if they just let the Rift Herald go, but they forced that fight when it was 30 seconds away from that third dragon spawn. Just say, yeah, they get Rift Herald, we get third dragon for free practically, but
Monki.
now they find themselves behind by 4,000 gold. However, Monki might be in a bad spot, flashes away from the bubble crucially. Karis now on the flank, but he's staring at 4 members here. Charm connects onto Tarzan, dishes in with the
WE are
spirit
split.
rush. Oh, Flandre looks for the flank onto a bout. Still no flash on the Ezreal. It's a great opportunity for Flandre to get his revenge. The flash looking for Monki, but he repositions with the Hound's Pursuit, but stopped in his tracks by the pillar. And anyone's legend are ready to make their revenge last. Cube all alone and all isolated. He's a very tanky guy, but he's not going to be lasting any much longer. AL with a hell of a punch, swing right on back in this game.
They look for an overload on the top side, and it ends up working. Mark, they get a kill onto Monki and crucially knock the Nefiri down a peg. That is the big reward for them, in my opinion. And at the start, I thought this was actually kind of cooked for them, because even though they have WE split, I think WE's decision to actually take this fight and move further up into the river was a big mistake, just because Flandre gets a crucial angle. Erha gets another really nice pop blossom. But now here is where I get to say I was kind of right about the Nico engage, in that AL just kind of walk it off. There's no reinforcements for the Nico engage, and Erha is kind of left all by his own devices. There were 2 split, and AL picked them apart one by one.
And that was a moment where WE got a little too ambitious for themselves. But I think when we look at this WE roster, they are still taking the benefit of the underdog buff and being the ones that are unexpected and always catching AL by surprise. I think it is very crucial that AL cut down the gold advantage that WE were rocking with and being able to hold their ground. We know that at their best, anyone's legend has been one of the best representatives the LPL has seen, at least on the international stage. We'll see if they can continue that prowess here. Cube forced to flash away from the knockup of Flandre. Good decimating smash onto Tarzan, but he subjugates him, so he's super tanky. The rest of AL, their posturing is forcing WE to respect the space within this jungle quadrant, and no further fight breaks out.
But they force them down enough in health that they kind of can keep control of mid lane. You can see now they're going to reset and move down toward the bot side. AL have to pick up that wave on top before they can do the exact same. So it's overall a good, beneficial fight coming out there from Team WE, just to vie for a little bit more space ahead of this objective. And again, AL are still on soul point if they get this this dragon. So WE have to really emphasize the importance of being there for this. But as I say that, Karis is onto the top side with no teleport. Meanwhile, Flandre also doesn't have that summoner spell, but it is starting to come off of cooldown very, very quickly. So if they can stall out, maybe a 4v5 angle is possible here for AL. They're on the top side.
About's flash is back up, which is very crucial for WE. Being picked off by Flandre was not ideal, and it gave a huge bounty of gold into Flandre's pockets, where now he should have a split push advantage in being able to start putting some pressure on the side lane. 2 items on the Rek'Sai, very potent threat that you have to constantly be worried about. But there's an opportunity for WE to secure their second dragon of the game with the majority of forces of AL on reset, having picked up, for the most part, some second items here and there. Hope finally picking up his second item in the Manamune, which has not been fully stacked up yet. WE, as long as they fight around about, he is the biggest goal difference maker that WE have on their side. We'll see if anyone's legend can continue slowing the game down and allow the scaling to come into effect for Shanks Cassiopeia.
We are starting to see the dividends of the scaling for both of these comps come through. Monki, I think, has maintained that snowball advantage that was built up to throughout the early and mid game. So his relevancy on the Naafiri has not dropped off, but about, like you said, now having that flash, I think going on to his third item, this is really when Ezreal is going to start hurting. So I'm looking at him to be that secondary driver for WE in a lot of these future fights. But then on the other hand, like you said, Shanks really starting to build up, has the full stacks of the Roa. Seraph's is complete. He's very tanky on the Cassiopeia, so it's hard for WE to look for an overload onto him if ever he is attempted to get picked off on by a side lane. So it's going to come down to team fights, in my opinion, Mark, and we saw how good WE were with that in game number 1 and how they have been in all of playoffs. We're going to have to see them recreate that here.
A couple members from the Panda side are trying to poke their heads into the river and fight for vision control, but they are not successful with it. Flandre returning to the bot side to answer the push of Cube. Top laners have teleport available. Tarzan takes a chunk out of Monki's health bar, sidesteps the bubble though, dodging out on what could have been a pick attempt from AL there in this jungle.
Didn't see the Nami, so got yeah. Right.
Charm connects onto Tarzan. Do they want to send it? Teleports immediately coming in. Tarzan chunked almost to lethal. Flashes away in time before the Darkened Daggers bleed him out completely. Flandre immediately using the tunnel to get away from danger there. WE have successfully pushed AL's jungler out of the red quadrant. Is it enough time to start the Baron? They're going to chance it.
Yeah, but there are the Hex Gates available. Tarzan can get right back into the action immediately. And this is what we talked about. Tremor Sense means that there are no surprises so long as the Rek'Sai is around, so they're just going to go for him.
Wow, Flandre forced to flash away. The pillar doesn't come in time, or maybe Flandre just wasn't really taking that risk. Flandre now down to flash. Tarzan still in the area, ready to try and walk forward and secure much necessary vision for Monki as he is forced over the wall. AL holding their ground at the very least in the second game.
They are. It's a powder keg just waiting to get hit here, Mark. I feel like there is a lot of tension riding on this Baron. And frankly, I thought burning the flash from Tarzan and then burning the crucial health bars of some of these AL members in that initial play onto the Trundle at the red buff was enough for them to just go on to the Nashor, because there's really no way for this Trundle with no flash to get over that Baron wall. So it's very hard to actually look for a 50-50 in that regard, but they decide not to chance it. They decide to fight another day. It's now 2 flashes burned on 2 separate members of AL, Flandre and Tarzan. So the frontliners have to be very careful how they position going into this next fight, whether that's around this Baron that is currently up or this Dragon that's going to be spawning in a little less than a minute and a half.
WE have definitely made a name for themselves in this playoffs run with their relentless aggression and repeated attacks, but I appreciate the patience and slowing down the tempo of the game to allow About to get time to purchase his third item in this Endless Hunger. This item has been a staple in Ezreal builds everywhere, giving him more ability haste, tenacity, and Omnivamp once he starts stacking up a takedown in fights. Starts off with 5% just baseline. Oh my god! That is unlucky for Shanks. I have no idea if Karis knew, but that is a crucial ultimate burned right before the 5th dragon of the game.
This kind of feels like fate, what's going on here right now, Mark. I mean, we saw Monki almost get bubbled. He didn't even attempt to dodge that, really. It was blind luck, frankly. where he avoided that trap potentially set up by Kael. And then right there, Shanks whiffs the ultimate. WE are unintentionally dodging AL skill shots without even trying, and now they're not going to be able to dodge much more. Dragon up in a little less than 10 seconds, and both teams are ready to fight.
Flandre's Tremor Sense trying to work overtime and detecting where everyone from WE is postured. Have to keep eyes on where Erha is. He's slinking into the mid lane. Should get spotted once he crosses into the jungle quadrant.
Oh, flash charm!
He's under hope. He gets caught. That is big for WE, and Shanks has no way out off of the Pop Blossom. About picks up 2 in swift fashion. AL lose on their 2 backline carries, and that's going to be the 3rd Dragon awarded to WE.
And for WE, I think it's time to divide and conquer. You have more than enough damage to go onto this Dragon. Tarzan, though, trying to look for something. He knows WE are split.
Monki is just going to probably dip away from
Got
this
it.
Dragon. No, he doesn't. He says, give me that. And AL, it's been
the
all this on
Baron.
the bot side. The rest of their team are starting up the Baron. This is insane.
A teleport is being channeled here. Flandre and Tarzan want to try and be the heroes, but it's so low at this point.
Does Monki have another smite cast? He has to. 900 HP. No, he doesn't. WE are the most insane team we have seen from LPL in this playoffs run so far. And it seems like every play that they perform, no one else can do the same.
And Cube walks away, and you can tell Tarzan really wanted to get something done there. He goes toward the Dragon, tries to steal it, isn't able to, runs toward the Baron, but it's already at 1/3 HP. And Hope just with a crucial misposition there. I mean, he gets flashed on, charmed, locked down, and then Shanks is split. He's got no petrifying gaze to disengage himself from that fight. WE, all they needed was a couple of milliseconds, and they make the most of it. Baron secured, Dragon Soul Point now in their clutches, and WE are looking to take us to 2-0 point.
5,000 gold ahead, dressed in purple, 3 Hextech Dragons on their side. Tarzan steps up, tries to get some vision control and start fist fighting, but this is the comfort zone of WE. AL have to pay their respects.
Karis?
Charm connects onto Flandre, able to at least frontline that and deny that pick attempt onto Hope. But they are going to lose out on this turret thanks to the Baron buff, thanks to the push and siege, and WE are spiraling ahead further in gold.
And all of the efforts from WE to keep Monki ahead, the scaling from about now laying these true shot barrages into AL has fully come through as Tarzan gets chunked to less than half. All the while, Monki is sieging in the mid lane. They're dividing AL's attention, and AL, this is what we said, if they're not ahead in gold around the 20-minute mark, we're 10 minutes past that point, but look at how scatterbrained they are, look at how split they are, look at how desperate they are to try and make something happen, Mark.
Monki's just splitting and taking more resources in the mid lane. They're confident in Cube to be
going
able to
for
disengage
Cube.
this. Great pillar though. Cube tries to use the ult to the side and buy some time for the rest of WE to disengage. Monki cannot commit to this play. The rest of AL now turn onto the dogs. He pops the call of the pack just to get some movement speed. Tarzan, does he have what it takes to find the pillar? It forces the flash on a Monki. But the rest of WE now continuing the siege onto the bottom lane. They're pulling.
They're hurting them around.
They're just jerking them around. Anyone's legend now trying to find the flash play. Erha disengages it with the Pop Blossom. Karis is not able to get out alive, but About is going to try to cook here. Tarzan, it just charges forward, ready to chomp on down, and anyone's legend have taken out 2 carries, but they forgot about Monki, who's ready to and tear them limb from limb. Tarzan might be the king of the jungle, but Monki is a whole other beast. WE are pushing AL to match point.
And Monki is by himself. He has 2 towers to take down. AL look for a desperation play, but it is not going to matter. 2-0 for the 1-13 team. Do you believe in miracles?
Hope comes back up from the fountain. Monki has Cube and a teleporting Karis to help finish the job. WE are 2-0 up against anyone's legend. There is no other team like WE right now, and even before a series win is even guaranteed, this run from WE is going to be remembered for ages, Quax.
It is. This is already going to generate so much buzz. They took BLG 3-1, and now they have the potential to one-up themselves by 3-0ing AL, a team that around this time was making buzz. If we go back to MSI in 2025, this team was looked at as one of the best in the world. They want to get back to that international, and WE might not eliminate them as we still are in the upper bracket mark, but they would send them to the lower bracket where it is already shaping up to be a gauntlet.
Just think about the opponents that are ahead of WE if they push this to a series win on game 3. They've already sent the first seed to the lower bracket. It would be AL, the 4th seed, going to the lower bracket. After them, it's Top Esports in the upper finals, who, coming from the regular season, are technically the 3rd seed, but for a majority of the regular season, they were the 2nd seed. They were pushing BLG, and there was a lot of hype around that team with the run that they had towards the first half of the regular season and the form that they were able to clutch out against JDG to put themselves at best top 3 contention. And WE is just eclipsing all of that hype right now, just based off of the fact that this team was 1 game loss away from not even making it to playoffs at the courtesy of LNG.
I know, and really, the fact that LNG might be the team most close to beating WE out of BLG, AL, and LNG, only one of these teams might have taken WE 2-5. And if you were to, like, a couple of weeks ago, make it like a questionnaire, like one of those, like, who wants to be a millionaire questions, like, who do you think is most likely to take WE to 5? You definitely say it was LNG the least amount of times. Absolutely crazy stuff. They're scaling. They're scaling.
This team is just getting better and better. And this was a game where, once again, WE were finding these advantageous skirmishes, but there was also some showing of restraint. And I know that Monki is going to be another highlight talking point of this game, of this series, but I want to credit the rest of the supporting cast from WE, because we have talked about before in previous iterations of WE where if the solo lanes are not doing their job, Monki can only do so much. And it was a common talking point here on LPL English last year when WE was making this run, that it was mostly just Monki or Taeyun and Vampire just brute forcing their will upon the rest of the bracket and doing what they could to defy the odds before finally falling short to IG. And solo lane diff was a massive reason why, because Rookie and the Shy, back in their prime on IG in 2025, put a stop to that run. But Cube have Karis have stepped up so much. Karis showed some brief glimpses of being a much better laner earlier this year in Split 1 during the Perseverance group run, but Cube was someone that we had been waiting to really start showing any sense of reliability. That started with the BLG series. It's continuing here, being not only putting the silent fries in the bag and being the front line that the team needs, but even on the Jace matchup when he is getting cooked on the side lanes after AL trying to rectify the odds that were put on Flandre's vein. It is just so surprising to see this WE team buy into the chaos and the madness that Monki seems to spearhead for the rest of the squad.
Yeah, Monki really, I think, just propels this team to go forward without fear. And another player that I want to shout out for this game was about. I think that even though it was a quieter early game for the Ezreal, that's exactly what you expect from Ezreal. He scales on up, he becomes a late game monster, and that's exactly what he did. He was 31%, almost a entire third of his team's damage mark. He was pumping out those numbers. He was positioning well in fights. There were a couple of hiccups with those flashes, but I do think from a general gameplay perspective, he had a lot of really nice moments. So again, we were kind of hyping up hope in this matchup for a player looking for a redemption arc and having really good form in their first match up against EDG. But so far, About has been really, in my opinion, fathering him and looking like the better AD carry in this best of 5.
About joining this roster, rookie of the split from Split 1. Paying investment, returning to that form here just in time for playoffs as well. Really putting in so much work on this Ezreal. And last shout out to Erha. I know you are very skeptical on Neeko and what she can do. Obviously, if you're not following up on the Pop Blossom Engage, she just does not bring enough burst damage to be a threat by herself. It is the angles and it is the creativity that you have to find. That fight on Rift Herald broke open the game for WE to cruise on ahead for a snowball. Even when they were slightly ahead by 3,000, it was still comebackable. It was still winnable for anyone's legend, but them disrespecting WE at that Rift Herald fight, trying to say, no, we can take them on this play, and just, I don't know if it was Tremor Sense just being ignored, but that play alone is what makes the game almost
it's what breaks it
unlosable for WE.
It really does. Erha found so many critical timers and so many critical flanks against a comp that we said it was going to be hard to flank against with Rek'Sai in the game, but he managed to make it happen almost every single time. And I think switching over to the conversation about AL, not playing to their strengths that we know them for. We talk about the confluence of Tarzan and Kael linking up with one another to dictate early game tempo and get AL off to an early lead. I don't think I've seen these two on the same screen as one another in the jungle so far this series, Mark. They're like two characters in a show with multiple POVs who just never interact with one another. You like have them with their own character arcs, they establish who they are, and you get invested in them, but these two never actually have any scenes of dialogue with one another. They're just like ships in the night passing one another, and that is not the kind of synergy you want to see in playoffs, and especially now where you're down 0-2.
And now WE at match point. With one single game win, they push themselves to a guaranteed top 3 finish, something they have not seen since LPL 2021 summer playoffs when Shanks was on this roster, first making his name, by the way. And that puts them one series win away from making an appearance at an international for the first time since 2017. You can feel the hype, you can feel the momentum. Do you believe in WE? We'll find out on the other side of this break.